What's up, Laker fans? The Lakers beat the Nuggets 124 to 115 on Sunday night. Let's take a closer look at how it all went down. Russell had a dominant performance, once again exploiting Denver's conservative pick-and-roll coverage. They ran less action for him off of the ball than they did in the previous game, but here's a nice little handoff to get him into the paint. We saw the first post-up action being run for Russell in this game as well. On this one, he gives the ball up to the wing and then gets a cross screen and posts up on the other side. Golden State runs this action for Sean Livingston. Russell only had 3 assists, but that doesn't really tell the story of his playmaking in this game. Simply put, if he's got one defender on him, he needs to try to score, and if he draws a second defender, he needs to move the ball. He was effective in transition as well, both as a shooter and as a distributor. But there were a couple of instances where he held onto the ball when he should have given it up. On the negative side of things, he was very poor in transition defense. He gets turned sideways and doesn't always give the effort necessary to get squared up. His man defense was a mixed bag. Here he goes over a screen and does well to stay with Moutier and contest a shot. But his help defense was pretty good. Here, he V's to the ball to stop penetration, then closes back out. This was one of Randle's most effective half-court performances. The thing that I've been most encouraged by has been his improvement in the screening game, particularly how he settles into the open window and provides his guard a passing angle to get him the ball. But he needs to be at least a threat from mid-range. Here he's wide open for a jumper but drives it into 2 guys. But all in all, he's sprinting to his screens and making contact on some of them, which is a sign of progress. On the ball, he did a great job of attacking Nurkic off the dribble. He had a couple of baskets out of the post as well. One of the things that I've been really impressed with is how under control he's been in transition. He's slowing down and avoiding defenders trying to take the charge and finding open shooters as a result. It was probably his best defensive game of the preseason, where he demonstrated his quick feet on the perimeter. But I would love to see him gamble less. Here he does a nice job of tagging the roll man and then recovering back out to the perimeter. Then they switch, and then he bites on the head fake. If he just stays down, that's a really good defensive possession. Lou Williams had about as good of a game as you can hope for. He was very effective at spotting up and at creating something out of nothing. This play ends up stalling, but Williams knocks down a tough shot regardless. He also did some good work out of the pick and roll, which he usually does. And he was effective in transition as well. He's actually been respectable on the defensive end in the last 2 games as well. He's not a guy where I look for him to make great defensive plays, but I'm hoping for an absence of bad ones, and that's been the case in the last 2 games. Clarkson wasn't as effective in this game as he was in the first 2, but here's a nice play. The Lakers were out-rebounded by 25, and Clarkson was a small part of that. He had a hard time corralling perimeter rebounds. On the offensive end, he got hot in the third quarter and knocked down a couple of threes. He also continued to do a great job of using screens both on and off of the ball. This is the one screen that I saw him using correctly. He had just knocked down 2 threes and wanted to get a third. His defender is trailing him right here, so he should curl, but he pops out instead. I saw signs of progress in Ingram's offensive game. He's at his best when he's using triple threat moves rather than off the dribble, and he has a really good rip through which he uses here to freeze Murray. But one thing that's holding him back is that he's a 2-foot jumper. At a point like this, he should be able to jump off of 1 foot and glide to the rim, but instead he has to gather himself, which gives the defense time to recover. This is fixable, but it'll take some time for him to get comfortable with jumping off of 1 foot. Luke played him some at the 4, which is where I think he's at his best. Here he has a nice shoulder dip and gets to the line. He's still figuring out where open shots come from in the NBA. This should be a catch-and-shoot 3, because you don't get that much more open than this. He had a much better defensive game in this game than he did on Friday, and used his length well to contest. I didn't like how he defended the pick and roll from either position. Here he goes over the screen on Moutier, which you shouldn't do. And then if you're going to play power forward, you have to remember your pick and roll coverages. Here Clarkson is icing the screen, but Ingram isn't helping. And lastly, he was one of the culprits on the defensive boards. This was a poor all-around game for Nance. On the offensive end, Denver left him open and he wasn't able to knock anything down. He missed a couple of reads as well. But he did set good screens and opportunities arose for both himself and his teammates out of that. I have virtually nothing to report on the defensive end, which is very rare for Nance. Mozgov had one of the highlights of the night as he settled into the open window and then dunked on Nurkic. But otherwise it was a pretty uneventful night for him as he only played in the first half. I don't mess with the off-the-court stuff, but on the court, Young could be a valuable contributor. He's actually an underrated defender. But while he is solid, he does have his lapses. On the defensive boards, he did the one thing that I'd like to see more from our guards and wings. Here, he sandwiches Nurkic, making it difficult for him to get the rebound, and ends up getting free throws out of it himself. Offensively, he's at his best when there's a structure in place that allows him to catch and shoot. He does have the capability of creating shots on his own, but hopefully we see less of that this year. Calderon is a guy who's going to make the right decision on a pick and roll pretty much every time. He made excellent decisions in transition as well. He didn't have a good game defensively. Moutier was struggling until he got some looks against Calderon in the second quarter. Black was a mixed bag defensively. He had a hard time containing on his soft hedges, which compromised the defense. but his help defense was very solid. It was a pretty quiet game for him offensively, but he's consistently the Lakers' best screener. Zubac, bless his heart, is a bit lost right now. On the offensive end, he missed this semi-skyhook and made a nice play here on his dunk. He sees that he's in Randle's rolling lane, and he relocates to the other side of the basket so he can get the dump off for the dunk. Thomas Robinson closed the game out for the Lakers at the center position and allowed them to be more aggressive with their pick and roll coverages. This maybe gives him a decent case to stick with the roster. And while he's usually a great rebounder, he was terrible at it in this game, allowing a ton of offensive rebounds. Led by D'Angelo Russell and Julius Randle, the Lakers scored 124 points against an NBA team in a non-overtime game for the first time since March of 2014. But they also surrendered 45 free throw attempts and were out-rebounded by 25. They're going to have to clean both of those areas up. As always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to hit me up on Twitter @LakerFilm.